It's Friday, December 24. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. 2022 is just a few days away, but Prime Minister Andrew Holness has signaled the new year will not be business as usual. He says there will be a cabinet shuffle in the new year. No date yet for the shuffle, but Mr. Holness says the changes are necessary. The current cabinet was sworn in shortly after the ruling Jamaica Labour Party's landslide September 2020 election victory against the People's National Party. He was speaking on Thursday with Cliff Hughes of Nationwide News. The Pan American Health Organization has welcomed the development of an Astrazeneca vaccine jointly produced by Argentina and Mexico. The vaccine, the first of such manufactured in Latin America, has been given the nod by the World Health Organization. The approval comes as the pandemic enters its third consecutive year and the region sees a steady climb in COVID-19 cases. PAHO's director, Dr. Carissa Etienne, says boosting regional capacity to produce vaccines is key to filling the gap created by unequal distribution of vaccines. The PAHO director cites the international endorsement as an example of how the region is primed to develop its pharmaceutical manufacturing capacity. Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says Jamaica must embrace all the opportunities brought on by the digital age. He says this is vital as Jamaica continues aggressive recovery of its tourism product from the global COVID-19 pandemic.
Convenience and speed are two important factors of this new age. For tourism, and with the pandemic, access to information has become even more important. There's an increased reliance on retrieving detailed information about a destination prior to finalizing travel plans. This makes it important that we remain relevant in the digital space, and for that, we embrace all opportunities, such as this enhanced visitor mobile app, to ensure that we share timely, accurate, and up-to-date information.
The minister detailed the island's tourism performance over 2021.
Our fast-paced recovery will bring 1.7 million visitors by the end of 2021. This is an increase of 400,000, better than originally predicted. We are making all efforts to ramp up our marketing and to put plans in place to achieve these new goals.
Mr. Bartlett was speaking virtually at a recent visitor app launch hosted by the tourism product development company TPDCO. On Wednesday, Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of National Security, Senator Matthew Samuda, brought Christmas cheer to wards of the state at the Rio Cobre and Hilltop Juvenile Correctional Centers. The event is the annual end-of-year gift-giving treat for the wards, which was held by the ministry's We Transform Youth Empowerment program. Approximately 180 wards of the state across the 4 juvenile correctional and remand centers have so far been feted and presented with Christmas gifts. It's the festive season, and as we enjoy the holidays, we are urged to do so safely and responsibly. Firecrackers are still illegal. That reminder from the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF. Speaking with JIS recently, head of the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, Assistant Commissioner of Police Gary McKenzie, said persons should desist from using them.
Well, the possession is illegal, the sale of it is illegal, and the use of it is illegal, right? So no one is to be in possession of clappers or any other device that will cause fireworks or will cause explosions.
He notes that persons have lost their homes due to individuals who use fireworks. ACP McKenzie also cautioned against loud motorcycles on the roadways.
We have babies, we have elderly persons, and sometimes these things go off, at infirmaries, at hospitals. And I just want to mention one thing. These motorcycles with these loud noise, we are trying to ensure that everyone enjoy the season. But I can tell you, as the head of the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, these motorcycles that have these explosive mufflers, right? We have seized a lot of them, and we will seize more, because it is not that when you are passing an infirmary or a hospital, you can then switch off the muffler to silent.
The private sector organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, Public Safety Monitoring Committee, is renewing its call for the government to fully enact the Road Traffic Act amidst rising traffic fatalities. The call follows a report provided by the Ministry of National Security for the period ending September 2021, which revealed an 8% increase in road fatalities, with 356 recorded when compared to the corresponding period in 2020, which recorded 331 fatalities. The committee in a statement says, quote, "This figure results in the milestone of a 15% reduction in road traffic collision and fatalities through strict enforcement of traffic laws being completely off track," end quote. At the same time, the committee says it's looking forward to the official launch of the Traffic Ticket Management System's online portal on an appropriate government website by the end of the year. Tax Administration Jamaica says they have resumed the online payment of traffic tickets. We get this as well as our daily market update in today's extended business report with Gabriel Thompson.
The Tax Administration Jamaica TAJ has advised taxpayers that it has resumed the collection of payments for traffic tickets online or at any of its tax offices across the island. TAJ says it can only receive traffic tickets issued within the last 21 days and presented for payments. Last month, TAJ made customers aware that it was unable to collect payments for traffic ticket fines at tax offices or via its online system. This was as a result of not receiving the finalized list of traffic offense codes as defined by the recent change to the applicable law. In early November, Parliament hastily pushed through amendments to the Act in the House of Representatives and the Senate following a Supreme Court injunction barring the police from issuing traffic tickets in excess of rates charged up to 2006. Motorists were required to wait until the 21-day payment period expired and attend court in the parish where the offense was recorded to pay tickets. In a statement, the tax authority issued an apology to the public for the inconvenience and dislocation caused by the suspension of this service. In foreign exchange trading for Thursday, December 23, the US dollar sold for an average $154.60. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $120.67. The pound sterling traded for $206.68, and the euro sold for an average $176.56. In Thursday's trading session, the JSE Combined Index advanced by 481 points to close at under 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 90 stocks, of which 37 advanced, 39 declined, and 14 traded firm. The Junior Market Index declined by 20 points to close at over 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Access Financial Services Limited, and Barita Investments Limited. Trading firm were Community and Workers of Jamaica CCU Deferred Share, Consolidated Bakers Jamaica Limited, and Epley Limited. Mailpack Group Limited was the volume leader with over 9.7 million units, followed by Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with over 4.3 million units, and Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with over 4.2 million units. In market data for oil, Brent crude futures snapped a 3-day rally on Friday in light trading before the Christmas holidays, but the benchmark was still headed for a weekly gain, with the market focusing on next steps by OPEC Plus and the impact of the Omicron variant. Brent crude futures fell 75 cents or 1% to $76.10 a barrel, following a 2.1% gain in the previous session. The benchmark was still on track for a weekly gain of about 3.5%. U.S. markets are closed on Friday for the Christmas holiday. Oil prices have recovered this week as fears over the impact of the highly infectious Omicron variant on the global economy receded, with early data suggesting it causes a milder level of illness. In this week's Financially Focused, Coach Denise Williams gets personal and tells you about her financial journey and the importance of being open to change.
Hi, I'm Denise Williams, your financial coach. Now, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the impact of change in your life. You know, can we find a better word than change to describe what's been happening to all of us in some way, shape, or form? Change is not easy. It can be so disruptive. Now, the thing is, within the disruption, you can find a level of control. And when it comes to your investment portfolio, within the massive changes, you can sit down and map out the areas that you think you have some control in. So, and that really relates to, here's the big change. What are your goals? So, I remember, years ago when I had my son, he was born with special needs. And that was a major change because I had to do parent training to learn how to manage my son and his medical needs. And then as he grew and matured, his learning and development needs. He needed therapy. He needed, medical intervention. He needed education intervention. So that also, it did change my way I invested. It changed the way I work. I wasn't available for 9 to 5 because of my son. I had to learn how to work and be a good mom in a non-traditional way. Same thing with investing. I shifted to more dividends because I needed additional income to pay for therapy because it's not cheap. But what about you? Buying a house, buying a car, having more children, starting a business. These are major life changes. Death, divorce. These are also major disruptions. So what you got to do is you have to relook and revisit your goals. If you were planning to buy a house in 5 years, is that still viable? Planning to buy a car, still viable? These are questions now. You can sit with your financial advisor and say, listen, there's been a death, there's been a new birth. We're planning to move, we're planning to downsize. And based on these plans, you can now take some control of your investment portfolio and say, I need to add more or do less of whatever you were doing before. And in that way, in the midst of all of this confusion, all of the change, all of the disruption, you have your goals, yeah? And that becomes your yardstick, your benchmark to help you stay on track and meet your objectives even in times of change. I'm Denise Williams, your financial coach, and I hope this helped you to be financially focused.
For more information on the development of your financial future, head on over to financiallyfocusedmedia.com or find Denise on YouTube at Financially Focused. And on that note, we close this extended edition of the Business Report Inside the News on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
In news from across the region, we begin in Trinidad and Tobago, where government is not in a position to withdraw its policy position that workers in the public sector get vaccinated by mid-January or face being furloughed. This is the response from Attorney General Al-Rawi following a meeting with unions on the matter. Sunil Lala reports.
Mr. Roger, very plainly and very frankly, informed me that the unions, as he spoke for them, do not trust the government, do not trust the Prime Minister, and do not trust the data.
Attorney General Al-Rawi says despite many unions being present at a meeting to discuss government's impending policy on vaccinations for public sector workers, Joint Trade Union Movement leader Ansel Roger was the lone voice that had two demands of government.
One, withdraw its policy, and two, provide empirical evidence that the vaccines will stop people from getting COVID and stop infections.
However, Mr. Al-Rawi said government's position was clear and pointed out that the vaccine does not prevent someone from getting COVID, but reduces the dependency on hospitals.
The government's policy, quite simply, its sole and primary purpose is to save lives. The data before us is that 9 out of 10 people in the ICU unit are unvaccinated.
The Attorney General confirmed that government's policy would not require support from the opposition.
I am confident that it is of course a rights issue. It is a constitutional issue. It does not require a special majority.
He added that the unions did not want to talk about anything other than withdrawing the policy and had no recommendations with regards to a way forward. The AG said he is pleading with the unions to provide suggestions on the issue and is hopeful that the unions will provide a response.
The several trade unions which Mr. Roger spoke for and on behalf of have not given the country, let alone the government, any form of recommendation as to how to treat with the reality of Omicron and COVID Omicron in today's world.
Sonolala, TTT News.
In the Bahamas could be facing the worst wave of COVID-19 infections since the start of the pandemic. This according to Prime Minister Philip Davies, who outlined new safety rules to mitigate against the spread of the virus. He addressed reporters from a quarantined space Thursday afternoon. Jasmine Brown reports.
Prime Minister using his family situation to point out just how dire the COVID situation has become seemingly overnight as he asks Bahamians to act responsibly this holiday season. COVID cases have doubled and tripled over the last few days. On Thursday, the Bahamas recorded 140 cases, up from 79 cases recorded the day before. The Davis family has been impacted as well following a family gathering.
Last weekend, we had a family gathering, which included several family members who traveled here from abroad. Even though everyone was vaccinated and everyone tested negative before travel, several of those who are visiting from abroad tested positive on the 5th day after arrival in the country. Since then, my wife and other family members have tested positive. I remain negative. Because they were vaccinated, they are either asymptomatic or are experiencing only mild symptoms. I'm so grateful that that is the case.
As cases climb, Davis said effective immediately, rules related to gatherings will be tightened.
We are changing the rules about the size of gatherings that are permitted. Indoor gatherings should not have more than 20 people. Outdoor gatherings no more than 30.
Travel rules will also change.
Bahamians and visitors must test negative within 3 days of entering the country instead of 5. And beginning on January 7th, a negative PCR test will be required for all.
Davis says the government is continuing to progress with free COVID testing and is getting ready to mobilize multiple field hospitals should hospitalizations spike. He says plans are underway to utilize the nursing school and the national stadium, and the government is in discussions with an international partner to open a field hospital in Grand Bahama. In the meantime, he says Bahamians should prepare for the worst.
Because Omicron is so contagious, we could be entering the worst phase of the pandemic. We must do whatever we can to reduce the total number of infections. Activities that were relatively safe just last week are no longer safe. That is how quickly things have changed here. We all need to adjust our own thinking about what risks are acceptable, and we need to do so quickly.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
In Grenada, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell has strongly thrown his backing towards Grenada becoming a republic, doing away with the colonial system of governance and structure, as was recently done by Barbados. The Prime Minister believes it should be a major focus of any incoming government. However, Dr. Mitchell says certain deciding factors within a referendum remain the major limitation. More details from this GBN News report.
Some of the things that we're talking about today, I'm going to be still using Her Majesty's this, that leader, and Her Majesty's this. Time to go. But can we do it? Time to get off from that. How can we do it? Because Her Majesty what? Time for us to lose our bondage from the system.
Cutting ties with the British monarchy and becoming a republic is a goal Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell has shown his full support behind, following in the footsteps of Dominica, Trinidad and Tobago, and most recently Barbados, as English-speaking Caribbean countries that no longer hold Queen Elizabeth as the head of state. Dr. Mitchell believes it is the path to go. However, the Prime Minister cites issues within the referendum as a major stopgap.
But we are left with a constitution that says you must go to a referendum and you must get 66 and 2/3 percentage. Even when we get 15 seats, we don't get 66%. But in Britain, they can go to a referendum and 51%, the referendum passes. But we have to keep the system.
While admitting that he does not believe that such a referendum will occur under his stewardship, Dr. Mitchell notes that he will still place his full backing to whoever is in leadership.
I say, this referendum will pass. But somebody like me or others who are patriotic, when we are not in government, we will speak for whoever in office taking that decision. We would not play the cheap political games. We'll say what is right, and I would love one day to see a government, whoever is in office, take that position and hope God give me the strength to come up and say, yes.
Prime Minister Mitchell says ensuring that sovereignty rests with the people must be the focus.
And even if the opposition, my own party is not, if it's in opposition and it doesn't support it, I would go against him. I would go against them. Because right is always right. And then we should not be thinking of just ourselves. The future of this country means a lot more. What we leave in our generations, what are we leaving them, Mr. Speaker?
I am Gerard Joseph for GBN News.
In sports, we look to football. The Jamaica Football Federation Secretary Dalton Wint says that for the Parish Association level play on the island to resume, all players and officials would need to be vaccinated. Parish football associations have worked with the JFF to draft a protocol document which has been submitted to the government for a return of parish football. A major plank in that draft, says Mr. Wind, is 100% compliance with vaccination recommendations. Wind says the hope is to have football matches resumed at parish level before the first half of the next year. And that's our package. On behalf of the PBCJ family, we take this opportunity to wish you and yours a Merry Christmas. Be safe, be responsible. Pleasant viewing.